Welcome to Lead Live, reminding you of your personal genius and how you think in order to actualize what you desire.
Well, it's an honor to be here with you. My name is Dr. Elnora Tena Webb, and I have to say, it really is awesome to be able to experience life as I've been able to experience it as a woman. And as we honor women's legacy in light of celebrating International Women's Day on March the 8th, and thinking, as many of us do, at least in the United States and the Western Hemisphere, that the month of March really is dedicated to reflecting on women. I want to encourage us to do that beyond a day, beyond a month. And that's the topic today: serious musings about women's remarkable leadership. And I hope you find that what I have on is somewhat celebratory. I really want to be up, even though I want this conversation with you to be very serious. Women, females represent almost 4 billion individuals on this planet. Women, adult, represent at least 3 billion. That's a lot of power. And each one of us as individuals, and then just as a collective, wow. The notion of moving mountains, transforming institutions, edifying and uplifting our communities, it's within reach. This topic is important to me for a number of reasons, beyond the fact that I'm a woman, and I'm very proud to be so. It's because I think about all the women that I've had the opportunity to observe up close and afar, read about, listen to, learn from, and be affected by. And these are rather diverse women. I mean, ethnically diverse. Their preferences in terms of what they think about, their values, etc., very diverse. Their age, their size, their choices in terms of belief systems, whether it's religious or philosophical beliefs, very diverse. And what we all have in common, what all of those women had in common, was this need to be more than what they thought they wanted to be, primarily because of societal pressures. Now, they may not have clarified it that way, and yet many of them, not all of them, were so focused on how they looked, how they were perceived, how they would be gain access. And so much was focused on the external environment. And mind you, I'm talking about brilliant women, women who are artists, who are journalists, who are judges, who are doctors, who are lawyers, who are space travelers, leaders of countries, farmers, educators, CEOs of corporations, presidents, chancellors of universities and colleges. I can go on. And certainly mothers, grandmothers, great grandmothers, aunts, cousins, sisters, daughters. And why do I say that? I bring up this notion that they were very mindful, and to some degree, some of them were excessively outer directed, rather than what I think is even healthier, much healthier, is to be inner directed. Doesn't take away their genius, their expertise, their accomplishments. That they were outer directed, primarily, as many of them would say, and some have said, because of the socialization that we've experienced as infants, as young girls, as teenagers, into young adulthoods. That's reinforced because we've taken on those values, those belief systems, that mindset that ultimately affected our understanding of self, the subconscious driven behavior that we engage in that leads to certain results that ultimately reinforce. Here's our power. And again, mind you, the folks I'm talking about are all from societal perspectives very successful. And so, why am I even bringing this up? Imagine those same women, all of these women, being extraordinarily successful because they were driven by an inner voice, an inner knowing, an inner understanding, and their inherent capacity as opposed to whatever the constraints were externally. And that is what this is about. When I say lead live, I'm referring to leadership, excellence, and achievement on demand. And what does that mean? It means understanding oneself, one's true capacity. And I don't care how brilliant that other is, whether it's your doctor, it's your psychologist, it's your psychiatrist, or it is your parent, or it is your colleague, or it's your subordinate, or your supervisor, or someone who's running the country. I don't care how brilliant those people are. They don't know the real you. They don't have a sense of the absolute capacity of the you. And I want you to spend more time, just like I am. An increasing number of women are spending more time getting to understand the essence of self, the essence of our capacity, and how we can exceed it. And yes, there are real constraints. In some countries, in some environments within even a country, within certain households, we are constrained. And yet, the power sometimes it's not in the physical constraint, it is in the mental constraint. When we free our minds, oh my goodness, there's so many songs about the freedom of the mind. I could free your mind and the rest what? For some of those who know that song, free your mind and free your mind and the world is your vista. Start there with mindset. What do you envision for yourself? What do you feel will enable you to actualize more of who you are while you're here? We don't know how long we're here. We may be here for another week, literally, given that I had 7 loved ones die between November and January, and no one of them, well, one exception, had a clue that they might transition that soon. So we may be here another 5 years. We may be here another 40, 50, 60 years. We don't know. And yet the gift is life itself, even given all the nonsense that's going on around us and that affects us. How do we leverage the time we have now to experience more of the inherent gifts that we're given? Yes, some of us understand there is a God. Some of us understand there is a great spirit. Some of us understand there's an absolute omnipotent source from which we all come. Some of us, and however we choose to frame it or call it, we come from something that is extraordinary. I think we are a part of something that is extraordinary and return to something that is extraordinary. Let's leverage it now. There are people that talk about, I am working so hard, not working because I have to. I am spending as much energy and effort, passion, and genius now because when I transition, I want to know that I gave it all. Wow, what if we gave it all in a way that's synergistic with our capacity and our greatness? And I mean greatness. I don't mean superficial, at a moment we can be great. Why not be great every moment? And what does that entail? That entails understanding the self to get to that place. So I think about these genius of spirits that I've referenced earlier that are in my mind, that are in my heart, who are among my loved ones, who are honest journalists, doctors, lawyers, CEOs, etc., who are doing phenomenally well. And yet there's an absence for many of them because they have yet, some of them are beginning to go to that deep space and say, who am I really? I accomplish this as I understand who I am and my true capacity. That scientists say we only use 5 to 10% if we're really running on all cylinders. Well, I understand scientists better now. They don't know our true capacity, and most of us don't either. We don't need to know the other, but can you imagine your capacity when you spend the time to read, to investigate, to reflect, to pursue, to act in ways that causes you to stretch, to it's akin to physical exercise. I have a niece. Oh, she's one of my many gifts of nieces and nephews and godchildren, etc. And she does a workout with friends, etc. And any of us who would join us. The first time I tried to work out with Zerica, oh my goodness, it was like, and now I understand what my brother said, her dad said. You're trying to kill me. But literally, had I stuck with it, and I'm doing something that works for me, I am building my muscle capacity. I'm building the memory in my physical body to say, oh, you can take this now. You couldn't take it 2 months ago. You can take it now. It's easy. Now I've got to stretch even more. Oh, that's painful. And then the body develops its own capacity to understand, to use whatever I've done to it. And it gets to a place where it's comfortable. I've got to do something different in order to stretch it further. That's the same thing with the mind. That's the same thing with the heart. And as a number of you understand, I'm all about the heart mind connection and in that direction. At the level of the mind, we say what? We say there's an unconscious mind, that's the emotional mind. And we say there's a conscious mind, that's the intellectual mind. That's where the mental faculties are of what? Of reason, of will, of imagination, of intuition, of perception, of memory. Those are the mental tools. At the subconscious level, that's that emotional mind, that's that heart mind connection. And the mind is in every cell of the body. It emanates outside of the body. And we know that scientifically because of the vibrational pattern that has been captured. So, what am I talking about? I'm talking about getting to a place where you allow yourself to appreciate you. You go deep. You find what that fantasy is that inspires you. And you say, okay, I'm a judge. I'm at the tip of my profession. I'm doing exceptionally well. I have an emptiness. Now I've spent that time reflecting. I understand why I have the emptiness. I've loved art, and yet all I've done is possess it. Yet I love creating art. So in my spare time, I'm going to give some space for that. All of a sudden, initially, what you could do with ease as a child, you lost some of that. So now as an adult, in your 50s and your early 60s, you're bringing that back. So you got to, like you're working out, you got to play with different oils, play with different textures, leverage some text, leverage some videos, leverage a coach, expand. And all of a sudden, within 6 months, you are doing what you could not imagine the first week. Within a year, you're actually selling pieces that you didn't know that were even worthy of selling. In 10 years, you have amassed a fortune because you've lived your passion. You still enjoy being a judge, and you may continue or you may retire and prepare the next generation to take on that role. The key thing is understanding that you have capacity that exceeds the expectations that you may be aware of right now. I see we have comments. Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm glad you love the pink. This is all about celebrating us. And what did you write? Let's see if I can read that. When I think of many people who were my mentors and champions, the ones who guided me and advocated for my professional advancement have been women of color. Well, let me tell you, Tomoko, I am honored to be one of those individuals. Most importantly, we benefit from aiding each other. I want you and I want all women all across this globe throughout this planet to understand our capacity to be the result that we want to experience, to manifest what we want to experience. And there's this statement about women: we build the future that is sustainable, peaceful, inclusive, and equitable. We can do that yesterday. And people go back to, oh, there's wars, there's tension, and there's an elite that manipulates and leverages the divide and conquer mentality, and uses media, uses all kinds of different methods in order to facilitate a certain result that will never allow us to experience the peace that you're talking about, Dr. Webb. Nonsense. Who are we? We're the mothers. We're the individuals in corporations. We're the individuals who create a lot of those messaging that we find in commercials, that we find in television programs, that we find in the media. We are the journalists. We're capturing, we're the photographers. We're the farmers who are cultivating the food with love and the right soil, the right mix of nutrients to edify the body so the mind can be healthier, the soul can be enriched. We are the ones that's building the foundation. Let's not negate our capacity to change things in an instant. And no, I'm not being, what do we call it? Simply idealistic. Yes, I do have ideals. And that's what gets me up in the morning. That's what makes certain that every Wednesday I'm in front of this camera sharing with you and others. That's what ensures that I add value in my small ways, in ways that most people will never know and don't need to know, yet they will feel the effect of, because that's what I'm about. It's about a transformative effect. Well, let's think about all the women, all of us, just shifting even slightly to say, I'm going to spend more time inside, understanding my gifts, my innate and born gifts, and how I can leverage them more. I may still want to work. I may still want to run my business. I may still want to build in this community, in this farm, on this farm, in this village, in a particular way. Yeah, I'm going to spend quiet time, even if it's just 5 minutes twice a day, reflecting. And then I'm going to take those reflections and I'm going to put them in a place, whether it's in the cloud or on a paper or on a board. And I'm going to imagine big with the understanding that I am part of the solution that will lead to the peace that edifies my soul. I want us to do that. So let's stop to reflect our thoughts, our feelings, our actions. All of them create vibration. All of them create results. Some people say, oh, it's only until I take an act will a result be a consequence. Your thoughts create vibration and could be more powerful than even your actions. Your feelings tend to be even much more powerful and impactful than even your thoughts or your actions. So all need to be in sync. It needs to be heart-mind coherence and alignment with behavior that produces the results that we want. Can I ask you something? I want you to think about this. You don't have to answer it. Uh, if you're on Facebook or YouTube, or of course, if you're watching by television, Roku or Amazon, you can answer it to the television. And that is, why are marketing efforts primarily to women? Think about that. We have a tremendous amount of power. Most of the marketing efforts are because we are the individuals who buy. We buy, we ensure that a great deal of what we experience, at least in the Western Hemisphere, uh, sustains the capitalist structure. If we stop buying today, wow, things would crumble. So we buy most of the goods and services. Think about our clothes. We buy clothes, and I think of individuals when go to their places and they've got clothes in their closet they've never worn. And they still have the tag on it. I'll never forget my brother when his wife died, bless her heart. He was giving away her clothes to her sisters and other loved ones, and trying to give me some of them as well. And all these tags were on there. And so we are known for buying, and our clothes tend to be more expensive than male clothes. So I historically, little tidbit, would go to the male section to get sweaters because they were usually 30 to 50% less and better quality sometimes. Why? Because we are powerful. We purchase most of the goods and services, whether it's groceries or it's clothes or it's vehicles or whether it's homes. We're engaged in those transactions. I just want to remind you of your power. So as you go about your daily day, and whether you're an employee or you're running your own business, when you run your own business, you have more of a sense of your responsibility and your leadership. When we are working for others, we tend to defer and default. Say, oh, it's the other person doing it. I want you to remember that independent of your role or because of your role, you are leading. Whether you're the frontline worker doing whatever you're doing, you didn't do that. A gap would be present in that organization. So you're an invaluable asset. Whether you're there or someplace else, you're an invaluable asset. So, how are we using our power? Are we using it in a way that we desire, that edifies us, our spirits, our bodies, our minds? Think about that. And Brianna, thank you. She writes, because women are the best to share a message, we refer others, we are the quality assurance. Yeah, well, you hit the nail on the head. As a compliment to Moko's comment, we care. We are wired, but that doesn't mean that we go here. We are wired to share. Not all of us does share, however, let's be very clear, or do share, I should say. Uh, and yet we're wired to be empathetic. Not all of us are empathetic, but we're wired so. And then we could say it's more socialization, or we could say there's something genetic that we choose at some level or we don't. But whatever it is, we're wired to do certain things. And the question is, are you wired to go within, to honor yourself? And I encourage you to create that wiring where you don't even think about it. You get up in the morning because it's habit. And who are we as humans, if not our habits? We're creatures of habit. Create habits where you wake up in the morning, the first thing you do is you go to this silent space for yourself. It can only be 5 minutes. And you reflect on your greatness. I'm not talking about ego. You can leave that in the bed, in the shower, whatever. I'm talking about the essence of your power, who you are spiritually at the grander level, far beyond this physical body. This is a temple. Hopefully, we're all treating it well. That's important. That spirit. Asking yourself, am I doing the right thing? Am I heading the right direction? What else can I do that really aligns with my values? If I don't know my values, what are they? Were they given to me and do I accept them? Do I want to shift them? Do I want to change them? And then create a habit that you literally install every single day for no less than 45 days. If you miss a day, you restart the number of days. You start from 1 all the way to 45, preferably 60, so that when you wake up in the morning, you don't even think about it. You automatically go to that musing for yourself. You're reflecting on the essence of who you are. You've come up with that vision for yourself, that fantasy goal that you reduce down to a measurable goal. and it's part of your overarching vision of your life, that every morning you're imagining, you're seeing yourself in that space, you're seeing your impact in that space, you're envisioning it over and over and over and over and over again. And before you know it, you're actualizing it. And people are like, oh my God, how did you do that? Well, to you, it's not a surprise because you were habitually engaged. You did it. It's like those of you who are running organizations, who are running your own organizations. It's not a big deal to you because you literally took the steps and you were consistent. You were persistent. And when you had a challenge, you resisted, undermining that forward moving progress. You persisted. You were resilient. When someone said no to you, you just smiled and wished them well and even thanked them for caring about you. And you kept going. You moved around them. If you got feedback that didn't honor you, you just smiled and wished them well and kept moving. And when people say, my goodness, you're too dark, you're too Asian, you're too Native American, you're too white, you're too short, you're too big, you're too whatever, you smile and you keep walking. You're perfect for who you are, as you are. You have the capacity to exceed your high expectations. And in fact, I want to reference someone. I love this statement. I was reminded of it by another brilliant person. She's dean of the new school of public health, Herbert Wertheim School of Public Health at UC San Diego. She referenced the 24th president of Liberia. I don't know if you're familiar with Ellen Johnson Sirleaf. I love these quotes. If your dream does not scare you, she says, do not scare you. If your dreams do not scare you, they are not big enough. And the size of your dreams must always exceed your current capacity to achieve them. Settle with that for a moment. I'm going to share not an exact quote, but the essence of the being of a dear loved one of mine. We've known each other for, wow, over 40 years now. Dr. Michelle Rowland. She's married to a wonderful man, Richard Duval. And she says, love is the path to sustainable healing. She's a medical doctor. And if I was a child, I would want her to be my pediatrician. She's also an educator. So she's educating residents, new doctors. Love is the path to sustainable healing. I say true love is the path to greatness, to say sustainable healing, learning, actualizing greatness. And then we've all heard, because we know that leadership in us as women doesn't begin when you're in your 60s, 70s, or 80s, or when you're in your 40s or 50s. Leadership really has no age. It's independent of our age. So think about Amanda Gorman in The Hill She Climbed, or The Hill We Climb, that magnificent poet activist who presented at the inauguration. And it just left me so honored and appreciative, even more so, of being a woman, a Black woman, a Black Latina Native American with Indian ancestry from India, with European ancestry, and like a lot of Blacks, ancestry I don't even know about. She made me proud to be a woman, even more so than what I was. She reminded us there is always light, if only we brave enough to see it, if only we're brave enough to be it. Oh, wow. And I love that especially. My first name is Elnora. And I don't know how many of you in the viewing audience know what Elnora means. In many languages, El is the, and Nora is light. So when she says, be the light, it reminded me of one of my aunts who I didn't know because I was a foster kid. But I met her when I was in my late 20s or early 30s. And by phone, Shirley, bless her heart, she transitioned not long after we talked by phone. And she asked me why I didn't use my first name. And I told her, well, most people can't pronounce it correctly, and I don't really like it. So they used Tina. And there was silence on the other end of the phone. And I said, are you still there? And I'd hurt her feelings, unbeknownst to me. And she says, well, I named you. Well, of course, there's no way I would have known that. I didn't belong to the family, right? And so I apologized. I said, and she let me know that what I had been told in terms of the name of the meaning of my name was accurate, the light, and that culturally, you didn't name children until you got to know them. And for whatever reason, my birth mother took the name that she asked her to take and named me the light. So I always felt honored by that. I also felt a greater sense of responsibility than I already had, which I had, to do much more than just get by, do much more than just reach my expectations, but go to where the Honorable Ellen said go. Go to a place you can't even imagine how to get there. That's the real kind of goal you want to pursue. And Amanda just reminded us that we get to be the light that we want to experience. She also says, for it's our grief that gives us gratitude. In other words, the challenges we experience, leverage them. They build the foundation on which, they help us build the foundation on which we can literally structure that house, structure our life, and ensure that it's not on quicksand. So leverage those griefs and be in gratitude always. She also stated in another one of her poems, the only approval you need is your own. Now, that's a young lady. Brilliant. The only approval we need is the approval that we give ourselves. As individuals, it's great to get it as a collective. Literally remind you that when people say no to you, they're basically telling you that's their stuff. You can choose to accept it. Yet if it's something that you want to experience, I say thank them very much for giving you time and space and consideration. Keep moving and go where you choose to go. No is only relevant to you when you ensure that it is relevant to you. Choice is the powerful thing that each one of us has. As women, we get to choose no differently than men. I'm suggesting that we choose in a way that's more profound for us, more obvious when we spend time with the self. So many other comments. Thank you, Dr. Webb. Thank you, Hawa. So privileged to watch you lecture your lectures. Women are truly powerful to the world, or powerful to the world and to our communities. Absolutely. And let us rise up. Yes. I love it, Dr. Webb. You tell your haters or toxic people, thank you for caring and wish them well. Always wish them well. Because let's be clear. I remember as a kid, I don't know when it was, but my brothers, at least a couple of brothers, and we were given or we had access to a boomerang. And I remember throwing it, and it was powerful. It came back to me. But not only did it come back to me, it came back to me with greater force. That was a lesson. And it is a reflection of life itself. Give what you want to come back, and what you want to come back with greater intensity. Let me tell you, don't worry about people's ugliness, their evilness, their downright disrespectful behavior towards you. And as a person of color, beautifully dark, equally transparent, I am very aware of the haters. I have people looking at me, and the level of hate, I can feel it. And with compassion, I let it go and wish them well. Because that hate is eating them up inside. It has nothing to do with me. It's their own paradigm, and they have a right to their paradigm. I wish them well. I wish them to go into a completely healthier paradigm. But let's be clear, the hater is actually harming him or herself, and they will reap literally what they sow. So you don't have to get caught up in that nonsense. Move forward, and move forward with grace in your own way. And I say in your own way because I'm thinking about the way I used to walk. I think I still do, but I like to believe I don't. I used to walk where everybody could hear me. It's like, oh my goodness, I could hear you stomping. And it's like, and my brothers, we walked to school miles, and my brothers was like, slow down. And I was like, we got places to go. Let's get there. However you move in your own graceful way, let it be with whatever space of unconditional love you can muster up. And the degree to which you allow unconditional love being your habit, you won't have to worry in the future. You won't have to worry about trying to figure out how to respond to negative stuff, ugliness, hateful stuff. It'll be automatic. Remember, what are we? We're creatures of habit. Build the right set of habits and try not to do more than two at a time, preferably one. We have time. You have time. Even if we're just talking about 45 days, you have time. And if you don't have all the time that you'd like, and that, for example, if I'm only here another day, I'm making certain that this day and the next moments that I have in that next day are with as much integrity, consistent with the values that I have chosen, and as much unconditional love as I can muster. That's our power. That's our power. and what it you are truly light and a oh, thank you, Hawa. I am so grateful for you. By Arabic is means light as well. That's right. Absolutely. And Craig, thank you for being here. Oh, love you too. Thank you so much. Let me tell you, we can go so many places. There's books about magnificent women, there's stories. There's online text about women across the globes. And we can easily think of people who are current, like, um, uh, oh goodness, why is her name escaping me? I see her. Oh, she gave this major interview recently. Oprah. What is my problem? Oprah. Or we can think about Rosa Parks, who's no longer with us. We can think about Michelle Obama, who was the backbone of her husband in ways that we may never learn unless she puts it in writing. And the reason why I think he was a stellar president, not perfect, didn't do all the things that I wanted, but she made certain that he could show up in a way where he always was supported. Now, that's what we do as women. We're usually in the background, we're on the side, and some of us choose to be in the foreground. Wherever we choose to be, we're at the core, we're the foundation for this planet. And where it goes, we're responsible. We get to shift where it goes. We get to address climate change. Yes, there really is climate change. It's happening. Yes, it's normal. And yes, we are part of nature. We're not separate from nature that we have to cure nature. No, no, no. Nature will take care of us if we don't take care of business. The nature doesn't need us. We're part of it. We're integral. We can be expelled by this earth any moment. So let's honor it. In the same way, I want us to honor ourselves so we can honor the other. We get to raise these people, girls and boys. We get to raise these communities in service, through service. We get to raise these institutions as professionals, as leaders. We get to raise society. Let's do it in a way where we're extremely proud. So we don't have to think about whether it's a Princess Diana, whether it is a Jane Goodall, whether it is a Hillary Clinton, whether it is a Mother Teresa, or whether it is a lot of folks who are indigenous, who don't get a lot of airtime. Indigenous to the US, indigenous across this planet, who are basically moved to the side. Those folks cultivated the soil on which we stand, on which our buildings are structured. They laid the path for us to be here. Those women among them were instrumental and oftentimes didn't really get the kind of airtime in recent history. Take thousands of years ago, women were given a lot of airtime. They were the leads. So let's ask ourselves, how do we, with history, even without knowing full history? How do we leverage what we can be inspired to be and make a profound difference moving forward? And that profound difference for someone may be as simple and elegant as walking down the street and you see a homeless person coming to you who is normally ignored, not seen, completely invisible, even with all of her stuff that appears to be rags on top of her, and that basket that she's shuffling down the street, and shoes that are tethered. The smile that you give to that woman may literally cause her to take off the shackle of pain and distress that led her to that space and see the opportunity to get to a healthier space. That smile alone, listen, I'm talking from experience. I know what I'm talking about. That smile alone may allow her to ask you for help. That smile alone may aid you in understanding, oh my goodness, the work that I do, this is perfect for this woman. Be open. And the best way to be open is to be centered in self. The outside world is important, without a doubt. It's to be valued, not at the expense, though, of the essence of you. That's what this is about. Yes, women are truly power to the world and to our communities. I understand there's some questions, Jet. Let's take the first. Thank you for this topic. Women can heal the world. Yeah, it's a statement, and you're right with that exclamation mark. Women heal. We heal. We are healers. Sometimes even when we don't want to be. Other times we have to be intentional about that. I encourage you to ask yourself how you can add that value. Yes, you're already settled. You may be making a lot of money. You may have beautiful home. You may have, hopefully, a wonderful family that you're not only able to complement, they complement you. It's a healthy environment. And if you're struggling with that, recognize that within you is the answer. Yes, you can come back to these sessions because we're going to provide more details of ways forward. Next week, for example, we're going to talk about a solution that some individuals are using in order to build the assets, the financial assets, while helping countless numbers of families. Yet there may be other ways that you can contribute where you get to experience more fully you and come into your own. The most important thing is to realize where you're at, wherever you're at on the planet, and whatever circumstances you're in, you get to be a healthier you, a more remarkable you. And why is it important to be remarkable? Why not? What is our lives about? Yes, we can just sit down, read for the rest of our lives, and I love reading, watch television, be entertained. I get that. There's comforts that we want to leverage them. In the process of it, ask yourself if you're fortunate enough to live however long you wish to live, whether it's to 40, whether it's to 120, and you're in that chair, that beautiful, comfortable chair that literally it massages you, and you're like, oh my God, I get to look back on my life. What would you have liked to have accomplished? And ask yourself, have you done that? That's what I'm talking about. That's where peace comes from. Is when we call it self-actualized. You can call it whatever you want from a psychological standpoint. I'm talking about it from a real human to human. We get to live these lives. Let's take it over the top. Why not? We get to. We really do. And when we model that, guess what we do for our young girls? and young boys. We model for them their capacity to exceed any expectation that they have too. And so we can begin to get to where scientists say we don't typically even consider well beyond the 10% capacity. What is 100% capacity as humans? I remember asking a friend that, and she says, well, probably if we met someone working at 100%, we'd probably call them an alien. Exactly. So why not all strive to be much more than this substandard of what we have the capacity to be? And I don't mean to negate any one of us, including myself. I believe it's powerful when we understand that we can get in our way in a way that adds more value to our own spirit, our own well being, where we're smiling, we're happy, we're in a joyful state. No, it doesn't negate the fact that other people are not. We are better positioned to help those folks so they can be in a joyful state too. Next question. Why make a difference when so much seems at odds with me and my desires? I remember reading that question. Well, the question is, who are you? What are your desires? That question in of itself is significant, powerful, and concerning. Why make a difference when so much seems at odds with me and my desires? Well, what are your desires? Who are you? Really? Let me say something that may not be so obvious for that person who wrote that question, and maybe it resonates with others. Even when we don't want to, we're making a difference. I want you to think about that. Even when we don't want to, we're making a difference. Digest that for a moment. Think about that. I mentioned the example of walking down the street and having the fortune to walk by someone. In this case, it's clearly someone who's homeless. And then having the fortune to be able to share a smile. And then it may lead to something else that actually edifies the spirit of that person who may no longer be homeless as a result of that one transaction. Doesn't mean you give your life to transforming that person. That person have a right to be whoever she wants to be. But let me tell you, that smile is your impact, your influence. That responding to a question, maybe a subsequent part of the transaction, is part of your contribution. So that if that's at odds with you, then I want you to ask yourself who you are and what is your desire. And that question suggests a lot to me. And I want to honor you and those of you where that question resonates, with whom the question resonates, and say you have a right to be who you are, to be where you are. I am just saying, I believe your right will benefit from leveraging the greater aspects of you, whatever they happen to be. And why not be your greatest self, whoever that is? And it's not a bit against my standard. There's no judgment. There's no judgment for you staying where you're at. You're here for a reason. You have a life for a reason. I encourage you to be clear about how you want to leverage that life. Maybe it'll be in sync with the reason why you're here, whatever that may be. And the powerful thing we get to do as humans is to choose. And we're deciding every day. So that question makes clear that you're deciding that to make a difference is at odds with you. You're already making a difference. So I would say it's not at odds with you. The question is, what do you desire to do? If you have a family, do you want to make a difference there? You live in a community, you're not isolated, do you want to make a difference there? Do you want to make a difference even in your own manifestation of your life? I encourage you. And it's really simple. It's not heavy lifting. Ultimately, you'll be able to look back and say, "My goodness, that was not too it's not too overwhelming." It felt initially because of where I was. And just like the exercising, building up the muscle capacity, same thing. Is there another question? I think there's another question. I think this is the last one. Who can we be as women with all of the dominating demands on us as mothers and givers of life? Well, we can be whoever we want to be. Literally, literally. I have a niece that has 8 children, and she was running a business. I have another niece who has 5 children, and she works for someone else. I have a niece in law with 4 children, and she's in a key leadership role. I have loved ones. I have one who's a judge who built a family as a single mom, another who's a doctor who built a family in love with her husband. There's so many examples of women across the globe who are running communities, who are running countries, who have families, who build what they choose to build. So, who can we be as women? We get to be whoever we want to be. And yes, there are dominating forces, but they're all relative. In the way that I was told I wouldn't live to the age of 20, and if I did, I wouldn't amount to anything. Well, bless those people. Really. They had no clue. They never took the time to even talk to that little girl who was me. They just looked at what they thought was my mother's experiences, and they didn't even know her actual experiences. They didn't know she was harmed. And they made assumptions. And then they made assumptions about me. And assumptions are always being made about us. I go some places, I'm a keynote speaker, I show up, the security guards at the front door and says, "Ma'am, we're waiting for a Dr. Webb. Would you please move to the side?" And I say, "Thank you very much. I'm ready to go in." It says, "No, no, no, we're waiting for a Dr. Webb. Would you please move to the side?" And I smile and I honor the person. And if the person can't get it, I'll go to another door and I'll enter and I'll go and I'll give my presentation. The person is now wiser. The point is, you don't get upset with that stuff. There are a lot of dominating forces. Yeah, that person didn't believe I was the Dr. Webb because of the color of my skin, and perhaps because of my gender as well. But that's his stuff. That was his stuff. Never has to be my stuff. So when you think about the world around you, honor its capacity. There's brilliant women around the world taking advantage of their brilliance and breaking through all the so-called barriers. There's no barrier unless we accept that there's a barrier, right? And yes, okay, let's be clear. Someone can put handcuffs on me. That's real. Unless I'm a magician, the handcuffs are real. Unless they do a lobotomy, and I'm not even certain then, they can't control my mindset and my heart. My spirit thrives beyond this body. So when you understand that you are more than just what appears, it's because you've gone inside and you've studied, you've reflected, you've gotten to that essence of who you are. My goodness, your power, get out the way and do it with grace, your own kind of grace. Life is a trip. I always say that. And then we get to wake up to our own choices. You're so welcome, Catherine. Thank you too for being here. So I want you to remember, no one of us has to be someone else. We are who we are for a reason. And every one of us has inherent beauty. brilliance, distinctive talents. Maybe they're latent, they've yet to be developed. We get to develop them. Every one of us gets to exceed even our high expectation when we choose. I want you to choose, even if it's, especially if it's uncomfortable. Remember the brilliant president of Liberia? What did she say? I want to go back there for a moment. What did that woman say? She said, the size of your dreams must always exceed your current capacity to achieve them. And when you achieve them, you want to build bigger. And if your dreams don't scare you, they are not big enough. Speaking as someone who went through a lot of challenges, she demonstrated, like a lot of women, like a lot of you, we've demonstrated over and over again, we have the capacity to exceed expectations. Why do we have the capacity to give birth? Because we can't. And many men were like, no, thank you. I'll never forget one of my brothers telling me that he fainted and he was in more pain than my sister-in-law when she was giving her first birth. I was like, really? Come on. But it was the whole process. He couldn't believe that she could do that. We can do that and we can do much more. I want you to remember, you are a gift for a reason. You're beautiful for a reason. And I mean that. You are brilliant for a reason. Allow yourself to illuminate that for you. It's not about other people, it's about you. Be the gift that you are to yourself. Then you'll be the gift that life has given to you. And you'll be able to leverage the gift that life is. Let's see. There's so much more I want to share. Yet I want to honor time. And I just want to say the following. Remember, you get to vision. You get to envision, to create a vision that is so wild, a fantasy vision that you take from a fantasy, you operationalize into a theory, and then you make it a concrete goal. And then you let the universe give you all kinds of intelligence through people, through readings, through whatever recordings that aid you in the path forward. You take action. And you do it with a burning desire for that vision. If you don't have a burning desire, that is not the right vision. A burning desire gets you up no matter what. It gets you to move through the pressures no matter what. Because of that burning desire, you're committed. You're responsible. Anything happens that goes south, you're responsible. You learn from it. And you know that failure is a precondition to absolute success, excellence. If everything is just working and you get there, it wasn't a big enough dream. You knew the stuff. It's like buying a car. Your vision is to buy another car? I don't think so. You've done that before. You know how to do it. Your vision is to buy a house? Well, you can find people can tell you how to do that. That's not big enough vision. Your vision is to do what? Build, transform, create in a way that is, oh my goodness, I'm not filling the blank. You get to fill it in. That's what you want. Ellen had the vision to be in leadership in her country. She had to be in exile. She came back. She fought. Most people would not even contemplate this woman being the president. She became the president. But she became the president long before she physically was president. She imagined it. She accepted it. She lived in it. She walked in it. Think about it. When you think of people for roles, you don't think about how they will act when they get in the role. You ask how they are now to see if they align. Decide now that vision. Make it a burning desire. Commit to it emotionally. Take action. The fruits will come. Be open because people will come to you with all kinds of things. Ask the greater source within you, your intuition. that mental tool. Is this the right thing that will help me? Be open, because the door you slam may be the catalyst or the method or the means to get you to where you want to go. How to get there? Be less concerned about how, be clear about where you're going. The how will come. Is there a secret formula? I've been asked, no. There are basic processes, not necessarily a secret formula, but I would say, remember, we are what we think about all day long. So be clear about the messages that you let in, that you actually focus on. Be it your dream, the manifestation of that dream. That's your emphasis, your primary focus. Who can you trust? Yourself. Welcome trusting others, but trust yourself first and foremost. Why should you lead with your heart? Because it is you. It is where most of the intelligence lies. Check out so much research on the heart, brain functioning. Are there simple steps that you can take to be that brilliant self that you may seek, whether it's professional, entrepreneur, whatever it is? Yes, there are some fundamental steps. And check, I've already mentioned some of them earlier, and we'll mention more in the subsequent shows. I want to be an example for my children, yet I'm unsure what this means for me. Okay, that was the last question. I want you to remember something. You are already an example for everyone, including your children. You are already an example for your children. The question is, what kind of example do you want to be? Do you want to be that example of someone who cares, your children can come to, confide in, get support, be influenced, to have the right set of healthy values that add values to their own life or adds to their lives, adds to the lives of others? You are already the model. You decide what that looks like. Further, you've got to contemplate how you're living, because they are going to model your behavior and less so what you say. And the degree to which your words, your feelings that are projected out through energy, vibration, and your actions are in coherence, they're aligned, they're synergistic, they will believe you and they'll follow your lead. The degree to which there's incongruency among those three, they'll question you, as they should, as we all should question ourselves if we're not living a congruent life. So be the change you want to experience. I have another one of my nieces here. I have to highlight her. Thank you for a wonderful and encouraging message today. It's my honor, Camille. Let me just say, we get to be the models we want to be. I don't care if it's on social media, or when we go to the grocery store, or when we are walking our dogs, or we're playing with our children or friends' children. We are who we are. And the degree to which we're clear about who that person is, we get to manifest that greatness all the time. I call it greatness when there's clarity of self and there's living that self at the highest level. So, in summary, because I can go on, I think some of you already know that. I want you to honor you, really, and think beyond just International Women's Day, celebrating women, honoring women in March. Let's let's honor ourselves daily, throughout the day, every month, every year. And let's model for everyone, every child, every girl, every boy, every man, everyone, the power of being the best self in an environment that really benefits from that. Let's go out and create the peace that we imagine. And the more we imagine, the more profound the peace becomes. Remember, everything that we think, feel, do vibrates and create the reality that we experience. Always an honor to be with all of you. And thank you, Craig, for your note. Thank you for sharing your insights and experience in furthering our individual and collective well-being. My honor. And Catherine, oh, my honor. Absolutely. I just want to say, pay it forward. And the best way to do it is to be the best self. Wado.